So I mean, all this corruption stems from literally the history of being part of the USSR.
The thing is, though, is that most of the more recent corruption has happened under the leadership of many of the people in Ukraine who have been pro-EU and pro-NATO.
I understand, but what I'm saying is we've talked about this a lot on the show. In terms of institutions, okay, and creating institutions of trust in government and trust between people, these are things that take long periods of time to grow. And under the USSR, you have all these countries that basically had all their institutions corrupted and everything built around corruption. So of course it's going to take decades for that shit to wear off. But a lot of people, and I would say rightly do, see themselves as tying themselves to Russia, which is currently still engaged in mass corruption, as just making the situation worse.
And you think somehow being allied with the West is going to decrease their corruption?
Very true.
Compared to Russia, of course.
I highly doubt it. I'm very suspect of. I'm very suspect of that.
In Russia, they literally had, under the law. Okay, we complain in the U.S. about how senators and representatives can engage in insider trading, which I think is really fucking bad. However, in Russia, Putin literally had it that by law, if the large corporations that were in Russia had to be owned and had to be boarded by government officials who were part of his cabinet. Okay.
So if you're going to
it's like the most fucking corrupt thing. And all these companies are making millions and billions of dollars, and all of these people in government are becoming insanely wealthy. And Putin is believed to be the wealthiest man on the planet. The corruption level is astronomical compared to what's going on.
But I don't think you understand how corrupt the institutions in Ukraine are. By the way,
the difference is the direction that they're moving, though. There's literally a video on YouTube. I can show it to you.
Argument.
What are you talking about?
So it's good at corruption moves in the direction of the West.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
Do police officers regularly shake you down for bribes? I'm curious. Do you live in that kind of environment?
No, but I don't see how you can.
In the United States, do police regularly shake people down for bribes? Do they regularly take bribes?
No.
Are you saying though that corruption is fine as long as it moves in the direction of the West?
No,
I'm making a distinction between a corrupt environment and a non-corrupt environment.
Wait. Let's not fall prey to the kind of socialist trap that our choices are reality versus utopia.
No,
yes.
I wasn't.
Right now.
I was trying to
right now,
make sure, because that's what it sounded like, and that was crazy. Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Right now, there's no utopian society.
Right.
Okay. There's no magic King Arthur Camelot for Ukraine to associate with. All we have right now is two choices: EU or Russia. That's it. There's no other magic alternative for them to join.
Right.
And is the EU and the West corrupt and have corruption problems? Of course it does. Of course it does. It's a system comprised of people that are shitty. Of course it has corruption. However, how does that corruption compare to what's going on in Russia?
Well, let's talk about it.
In Russia dwarves what the fuck's going on.
This is the point. This is the point.
In bounds, and I would argue is inherent within the Russian system.
Yes.
Then let's talk about the corruption from the West that occurred in Ukraine.
Let's go back to the police department example before we move on, because I think it illustrates the situation perfectly. Okay, I do not deny that there is corruption in Russia. I do not deny that police departments regularly shake down people for bribes. Okay. That's a fucking horrible situation to live in. Does that happen in the United States on the reg? Is that like a regular thing that people have to deal with in the United States? I know you want to say that the United States is just evil, corrupt, and terrible, but just on this one point,
Wait, what? Can you not, Adam? Can you not put words in my mouth?
Well, I'm asking you. I'm asking you a question. You listen. Every time I open my mouth and I say there's a corruption thing, Spoon is going to jump out and say, but look at America. What about you guys? Okay.
I want to
establish
extremely calm.
I want to just establish a baseline here. Our Western governments, do their police forces regularly shake down citizens for bribes?
Yes, I would say
they do.
I mean, probably not to the degree they do in Russia and Ukraine.
Listen,
no,
she
for sure
can't.
not.
Okay, there's no point in having this debate, Sitch. If we can't,
Wait.
if she's going to say that the level of corruption in the U.S. is the exact same as the level of corruption in Russia.
Can I just make a point here?
That's not what I said at all. I said, do you think what? Okay, I'm sorry. Let me read. May I? Please, I'm sorry.
How many bribes have you given to police? I'm curious in your 25 years of life,
she's
or
living in England
however
now.
old
It's
you
not
are.
fair.
Well, I'm sure there's a corruption in England too, Sitch. Let her answer. How many English police have you had to give money to get out of a ticket?
Down, for heaven's sakes, good Lord.
If I may,
yes.
Please, I haven't done that. But if
you've never given a bribe to a police officer? I'm shocked.
Can you let her talk, for heaven's sakes?
No, listen. Control your woman, Aiden.
Okay, so if I may, please,
Can you control your little bitch on the side here?
Okay, please, if it's okay. I have never done that, but the idea that there's no corruption within the United States that involves bribing of the police.
Tell me the story about your friend. Tell me your friend's story about your friend that was shook down for a bribe.
Hold on. Let's not let's not fall prey to comparing zero corruption versus 100% corruption.
Totally.
It's not a realistic
and
comparison.
By the way, I'm going to say that the Russian government's 100% corrupt and the Ukrainian government's 100% corrupt.
Yes, but there's a difference going on in Ukraine, a giant difference.
I mean, it seems
really sure
like
there is.
It seems like Ukraine, especially in its movement towards wanting to be more Western, is trying to move away towards corruption, and seems like moving towards Russia would only make things significantly worse, or at least stagnant. In terms
I actually don't think either one was a good option. I don't think moving towards the West is a good option for Ukraine.
That's the only choices they have.
And I don't think I think that if they were a pure independent state would be the best way, but the problem is they're being encouraged to be.
It's not. I know. Totally.
I know it's not realistic, and that is the problem. I would prefer a totally independent Ukraine, but they really do have to make a choice between NATO or CSTO.
Let me give you a very concrete example, of why I think this way. In 2012, when Yanukovych wanted to not become part of EU, but wanted to have his preferred status, or whatever the fuck they call it, with the EU.
Yanukovych did not want to become part of the EU. Yanukovych actually wanted to remain independent. That's why he got deposed in 2014.
Okay, so that was later. Okay, and that was in 2014 when Putin put the screws on him. In 2012, Yanukovych did sign this agreement that they would be moving forward to get preferred trade status with the EU. And the only reason they were not the only reason, but one of the reasons they were not just granted on the spot preferred EU status was because the EU said, hey, you have to make a bunch of reforms to battle corruption in your government. And so they said, you have 2 years to go work that out. And part of the hilarity of this is that when Russia put the screws on Ukraine and then offered them the counter deal, they said, oh, by the way, not only are we going to give you a counter deal where we'll give you a bunch of money and we'll start having trade with you again, but you don't have to change any laws. You can keep everything exactly the same way it is.
It's corrupt as fuck.
That is true. That is true.
So to me, it's a very clear sign that Russia is the path towards corruption and the EU is path towards less corruption.
Right.
I'm not sure how you can say that after the Newland call.
Oh, no.
Okay, first of all, that's America. It's not EU. And secondly...
Yes.
Okay, then we also talk about the Ashton call. And by the Ashton call is different.
Listen, she's gonna. Totally different. This is complete conflation.
I feel like there's a lot of
corruption.
jumping here.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining.
We're talking about the rank and file citizen corruption that people are forced to deal with, and now she's going to go to some fucking CIA.
Whoa!
From,
no.
We can talk about the new. We can talk about the Newland call. But wait, we can talk about the Newland call. I'm totally fine. I'm dying to talk about the Newland call. Okay, but I don't want to let this point go, because we already let the point go that Russia was putting the screws. We let 2 points go. We let the point go that
we're all over the place. That's the problem.
Let him finish.
We've let the point go
Sorry,
that
Sitch.
Gorbachev seemed to interpret the inch to the east the way that I'm interpreting it, and we've let go of the fact
we
that
didn't let it go. We won that.
Said that Poland could join NATO, and we've let go of the fact that Russia was basically economically trying to fuck over Ukraine to prevent them from enjoying their sovereign right to make trade deals with the EU including saying EU saying that, hey, you got to clean up your corruption, and Russia saying literally the opposite. You don't have to change anything. So,
I mean, but well,
we
actually,
didn't let any of those
okay,
points go. We banked all those points.
Okay, that's your perception of events.
Right.
May offer another perception of events.
Sure.
Just to, I know that like it's no way that certain events could be seen as different ways by different people, but here is the reality of what that would have been seen as. Okay, so
what
Russia.
Aiden, but just can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why can't we focus on reality? Why are you so intent on focusing on how these are perceived by Russia?
On reality,
okay. Can I point something out? Because you guys have been talking for like 5 fucking minutes and I haven't said a damn word. Okay, let me just explain something here. And I'm trying not to be a dick about this now, but I'm going to be. So fuck you too. You guys are Americans. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing.
Oh yeah. Here.
Okay. Can you guys please shut up? I did not.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Of you.
Go ahead. You have the floor. You have the talking stick.
You guys look at this and think, we know what is best for these countries because you're the West. You think you're the best. Like, you guys don't know jack shit about the EU or why the hell.
That's bullshit. That's a total mischaracterization of our position.
We'll
I did not interrupt you guys.
Yeah, we'll respond after.
All these places are corrupt. Okay? Myself and Aiden are looking this and not in a European-centric mindset. We're looking this in a world mindset, which is if you look at this thing with the Ukraine, Russia has said, look, if you join NATO, or I was maybe wrong about the previous, how Russia would, the Article 5, in case of attack. I may have been wrong about that. My apologies, because I'm big enough to say, my apologies, my bad. But we're looking at the perspective of, should there be any antagonistic effort here between between Ukraine and Russia? Is there a way that we can not escalate this into a global conflict? You guys are looking at this in a nation sovereignty. We're looking at this in a more broader scale. And that is our perspective. We're not saying one side shouldn't do this, one side shouldn't do that. We're obviously not a fan of the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia. But the point is there any way that you can, on a global scale, look at this position, not as Americans, but just how do we not make this a worse situation? And to many people, they look at the situation and think, look, what Ukraine is doing here is going to escalate the situation on a global scale. For the love of God, can we maybe avoid this? That is the basic position. I understand. And when America comes in and says this shit like you guys are doing now, your attitude is why so many people hate you Americans, because you look unbelievably arrogant with this fucking attitude. I'm sorry, but that's just the way a lot of people see it.
Right. So I understand. Well, okay. Let me know if I'm correctly understanding your position, because it sounds kind of like what you're saying is, and I understand this position, is saying, look,
I don't like it, by the way, but this is the world that it is.
They're saying the pressing issue here, I don't like it, but the pressing issue here is I don't want to start World War III. Okay, which is a very fair and reasonable position to have. And you're saying that the fear of starting World War III trumps anything about, what Ukraine wants to do, right? And that basically, just to not antagonize Putin, NATO should tell Ukraine it can't be part of NATO, even if the Ukraine wants to join NATO. You're saying that the threat of World War III overrides what Ukraine as a country wants to do.
Well, they avoid World War III. I don't like saying this, but like,
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again,
okay. Look, that's a reasonable position, I think, to have. I just don't agree with it. But it's
I also don't like it because I don't think it is good for the sovereignty of the nation. But my head is also going like, if they go for this, they're going to start World War III. And is that worse? I don't like that. It's not a nice position to be in, but this is the situation.
Well, yeah.
And can we come up with like the argument from like Professor Wersheimer? He was get a neutral zone and you can potentially avoid 2 nuclear superpowers having a go at it, because there's so much involvement now with nuclear threatening, and people are like, this is not funny. This is getting serious, and there may be a different way that we're not looking at it. That I hate. Which is I don't like saying offer up the sovereignty of a nation as as a good thing, but like if you can come
Virgin
up with
sacrifice.
A third. Is there a third
yes,
way?
a third
Well,
option. Yeah, I don't like
Well-
it, Adam, but if you can find me a way that you don't
Well,
get two
first of
nuclear
all,
antagonists to each other, then
We're saying
have at
it
it,
better.
man.
The conflict, it can't be
maybe
avoided.
better.
NATO is just the manifestation of it. It's the thing that everybody's pointing to. The real problem is the fact that Putin doesn't want a first world, Western style, capitalist, thriving democracy right on his border because he's an
The Ukraine is
oligarch,
definitely
he's a
thriving.
kleptocrat, and he's going to have his citizens looking over the border saying, oh my God, they have it so good over there. And the next thing you know,
Oh my
the next
God.
2014
Do you
revolution is
honestly
going to
think
be in
that's gonna fucking
Moscow.
happen?